I've got some blind spots. And they were quick to point out those blind spots because that's what normally trips us up. Well, if you're not surrounding yourself and subjecting yourself to the scrutiny of other trusted advisors in a small environment, who's going to tell you that this is not going to work? Who's going to encourage you? Who are you going to share these triumphs with? And it just allows you to be able to share, get advice in a small setting with these trusted advisors.
Welcome to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate Show. Whether you are an active or passive investor, we'll teach you how to scale your real estate investing business into something big.
Aaron Walker has founded more than a dozen companies in the past 42 years. If you've been paying attention, he's been featured on over 2,000 podcast interviews. And he's also the founder of Iron Sharpens Iron, a mastermind for success-minded men and women who want to level up in all areas of life. ISI has grown to over 20 mastermind groups since 2013. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Hey, Sam. Thanks for having me on, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Hey, man, the pleasure's mine. It's also great to have a fellow Tennessean here on the show. I don't get to do that very often. So you're based out of Nashville, Tennessee. So you're right up the road from us here in Memphis. Aaron, there's 3 questions I ask every guest who comes in the show. In 90 seconds or less, can you tell us, where did you start? Where are you now? And how did you get there?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sam. I started in Nashville, Tennessee, 61 years. I'm native, 3 generations deep. I opened a pawn shop when I was 18 years old, had a couple of partners, had a successful exit when I was 27, sold out to a Fortune 500. Since then, I've built 13 additional businesses between then and now. Had the privilege of being in a mastermind group with Dave Ramsey and Dan Miller and some of those guys here locally for over a dozen years. Today, I coach, I encourage, I help other people achieve their goals and dreams in Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind, and I'm probably having the absolute time of my life. My wife said I've retired more than the law allows. And so I just decided to go back into helping educate, train, and teach other people because I'm excited about the transformation that they get to experience as well.
It sounds like that's more of a motivation for you. I mean, at this point, like you said, you've retired more times than the law allows. I mean, you're not in it for the money at this point. There's just got to be a reward factor internally.
I never say that it's not some of the money. Everybody likes to make money. We like to give money away. We like to do nice things for our family. I hate it when people say, well, money is not an issue. And I'm like, well, do it for free then, right? So they never do it for free. And I'm like, I never say that, but it's not the sole motivation. The sole motivation for me is helping people achieve their goals and dreams. And we have hundreds of people in our organization now. We're in 7 different countries, and we're helping transform many, many lives to really accomplish the things that they were intended to. So yeah, that's what gets me up each and every day and gets me out of bed.
That's fantastic. One of the things that you're known for is transforming lives intentionally. What does that mean? And can you break down, I guess, some of when you take a look at a person or you take a look at someone who's talking to you and they say, hey, I want to transform my life. What does that mean to be intentional and how do they do it?
Yeah, I've got to give you the reason why. So 21 years ago, I was 40 years old. It was August 1st, 2001. I was headed to the office. Things were amazing. Had a beautiful home, had a place on the beach, all the fancy cars. I worked 3 days a week. My partner worked the other 3 days. I'm trying to paint a picture for you to let you know that I was in really an ideal position until a guy named Enrique walked out in front of me, and I ran over and killed a pedestrian on my way to the office. And my life literally, Sam, come to a screeching halt. And I had to do a lot of evaluation over the next 5 years. And what I learned through that process is that I'd had a great amount of success financially, but I had no significance in my life whatsoever. Like nobody cared that we had nice things, but my family. And I was thinking, I have not made an impact in the lives of other people. And so I came home one day with a pocket full of money to a house full of strangers. And I woke up and said, listen, this is not the legacy that I want to leave. The legacy I want to leave is that Sam Wilson's life is better as a result of having known me. I'm going to encourage that guy. I'm going to help that guy, because the only thing that people remember is how your life impacted them. They don't remember the tangible assets that you had. They don't care that you're wealthy or not. The only thing that they're interested in is how your life impacts them. So I've become very proactive in impacting the lives of other people. I'm very intentional about being a giver and not a taker. And the irony of that, Sam, is that the more I do for people, the natural reciprocity is they want to do for you. Mm-hmm. They want to connect you. They want to help you. They want to be around you. And I want to be the guy that lights up the room. I don't want to be the guy that sucks the energy out of the room. I don't want to be the guy that's like, oh, he's only calling me because he needs something. Right. Like, this guy's calling me to encourage me. And so as a result of that, you build this amazing community around you of givers. And when you do that, then you're qualified to live the life that you were created to live.
Man, that's absolutely fantastic. I can't imagine the soul searching that would happen after an event like that. That's just gut wrenching just hearing it. Man, that's really incredible. What were some steps that you took from that point forward? You came home, you said, hey, I got a pocket full of money and a house full of strangers. What did you do?
Yeah. I think there's benefit in working to make money. As I said earlier in the interview, I like to make money, and I want to make more money, and I want to be able to make an impact, and I want to help, and I want to take nice trips with my family and give money to my grandkids. I want to do all those things. And so I don't want to minimize that and say, no, we got to go out there and be a pauper and give it all away. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is that we need to be very intentional about living our life proactively and giving away. And I wrote a book called View from the Top. And in the book, it talks about measures of having great success, but don't forget the significance. And the significance piece is really doing things for others. And that can be in your immediate family, your extended family, your peers, your colleagues, people that you do business with. The thing is to do it intentionally, really allocate a portion of your time to do things for other people. I'm coaching a couple of guys right now that are very successful in the financial space, and I've presented this concept to them. And they said, why don't you just pay for whatever it is and let them go do it? And I said, there's a transformational experience that happens within yourself when you're actively engaged in doing random acts of kindness for others. Mm-hmm. There's something that happens in us. Our children are able to witness us physically going out, doing things for people. I do something here in Nashville every single Black Friday. And it's an activity that I do with my 5 grandchildren. We call it Gratitude Day, to where we go out and we spend the entire day doing random acts of kindness for strangers. We'll go to nursing homes. We'll go to the children's hospital. We'll go to stores and hand out cards with money in it. We'll pay off people's layaways. We'll buy meals for the entire restaurant. Now, some of you are like, yeah, Big A, if I had your money, I would do that too. But the thing is that you can do it on a small scale. You don't have to do it on a grandioso scale. You can go out and do this. And my grandchildren will all line up and tell you, we've got them from age 6 to 20 years old, and they'll say it's the funnest day of the year for them. They'll say that doing these random acts of kindness really gives them a sense of gratitude and purpose and meaning in their life. And we miss opportunities, Sam, each and every day with people that we're around, because we're always in it for ourselves. If I can make that connection, that's going to make me more money. If I can make that connection, I'll feel a sense of power. If I can make that connection, it will do X for me. But if you change your mindset to think, I wonder how I can connect Billy and Bobby, or Susie and Tommy, how can I connect them so that their life will be better? Now, here's what happens invariably, and I do this all day long, every day. They then say, Big A, you need to meet Sam Wilson. You need to meet this person. And I'm like, I can't even get back to all the people that I'm getting connected to now because I'm proactively helping other people. See, it's a mindset shift. Mm-hmm. And we have this scarcity mentality. If we don't go out and just get for ourselves, we may lose out. But that's not true. You need to have an abundance mindset. And when you adopt that mindset, greater things happen.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. I mean, you've hit on so many things there. The gratitude, it's so easy, man. It comes through your phone, it comes through your email, it comes through all this stuff that'll just, I mean, by 8 a.m., you can be the most ungrateful, sour person from just reading the bombardment of stuff coming at you. and not just being, and then within that, then that makes you also more me focused and like, oh my gosh, I got to put up my walls because the world's gonna, the world hates me and is gonna kill me. So that's a complete transformational shift. Talk to us about, one of the things that you do inside of ISI is surrounding yourself with trusted advisors. What was the birth of that? What was the point of it? What's the birth of it? And why do you guys do what you do now?
A couple of decades ago, when Dave Ramsey started his radio show, he was giving a talk at the Chamber of Commerce. This is in the early 90s. And I went and heard that talk and introduced myself to him. He offered me free advertising to try him just for a week period. And I did. And it made such a difference in our business here locally in Nashville that I became his second sponsor and sponsored his show for 21 years. Well, out of that became a very close friendship at which he invited me to be in his mastermind. And I didn't want to do it, Sam, just to be honest with you, because I knew Dave was going to be all up in my business and he was going to be ranting at me. But the truth of the matter is it changed my life. And the reason it did, it provided a safe environment that I could let the veil down, the facade, if you will. And I was able to be vulnerable and transparent among a few trusted advisors, that I could be honest, that I could say, hey, I don't have it all figured out. I do have some superpowers. There's some kryptonite along the way, but I've got some blind spots. And they were quick to point out those blind spots because that's what normally trips us up. Well, if you're not surrounding yourself and subjecting yourself to the scrutiny of other trusted advisors in a small environment, who's going to tell you that this is not going to work? Who's going to encourage you? Who are you going to share these triumphs with? And it just allows you to be able to share, get advice in a small setting with these trusted advisors. So when I retired 11 years ago, Dan Miller and Dave Ramsey encouraged me to coach and teach, at which I started doing podcast interviews, and I quickly filled up the groups, and I couldn't coach them individually. And so it birthed Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind, at which we now, I've had hundreds and hundreds of members over the years, but it positions you to be in an environment to where you can excel, because isolation is the enemy to excellence. And if you really want to excel in your life, you've got to surround yourself in community that you can get this type of encouragement and advice, resources. I call it AARP, A-A-R-P. You've got access, you've got accountability, you get resources, and the most important part is a different perspective. And you've got to have community in order to do that. Yeah,
absolutely. And part of community, I think, is one of the things that I've found valuable is the opportunity to be vulnerable. How do you foster that?
Yeah, it takes time and it's difficult. And a lot of people don't want to do it initially because they don't want you to know that they don't have it all together. Sam, you and I have never met in person, but the truth is you and I both were knuckleheads, right? There's some things we don't have together.
We're knuckleheads.
I still are, right? I'm just saying there's some area of your life that you have a challenge with right now. It could be relational, it could be financial, it could be physical. I don't know what it is, but I can promise you there's some area of your life you don't have all together. I don't either. And if we want to get better, we've got to get around people that can help us with that. So being vulnerable in a small group. Now, don't go out here to the world and air all your dirty laundry. I'm not suggesting that at all. But once you get into a group, a small group, maybe 8 to 12 people, and you get to know them and they prove themselves to be trustworthy and they're not going to go out and share the private things in your life, it just allows you to kind of unload. It allows you to sit there in a room and go, hey, I've got cash flow problems right now, or I'm really struggling with my spouse, or I've got a wayward child, or I've got this situation with my family or my extended family, and I really don't know how to deal with it. Right. Well, you're going to get the counsel of the multitudes, these trusted advisors. And when there's a general consensus of that group, more than likely, that's the avenue that you should take. See, no matter how much we want to see it a different way, it's virtually impossible because you have one life experience, you have one set of filters, and that is the way you perceive any situation that you're currently in. But man, when you have a different perspective, there's new insights. It opens up a whole host of new opportunities. You don't know what you don't know. Right, and this group allows you to look at things differently.
That's really interesting. What are some things that you guys do? I mean, because I always say that vulnerability begets vulnerability, right? Like if no one's vulnerable, then no one's going to be vulnerable. But how do you foster that in an ever expanding group setting? Like, I mean, that is creating a culture in its own right. So
Yeah, it is. And you never go further than the leader. And I'm very vulnerable. I'm very transparent. I teach our facilitators that run a lot of the groups to be vulnerable and transparent, because what it does, Sam, is it gives you permission to be vulnerable once I'm vulnerable. And you'll only go as far as I'll go. And so for me, I've just created an environment within Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind where vulnerability is the place that strength begins. And a lot of people don't believe that until they've experienced it, because we all have areas of our life that we need encouragement, we need help, we need to be edified. And until we know that that's a problematic area, we can't help you. And so there's so many places in our lives today that maybe we're excelling financially, but relationally, we're really struggling. We have one of our guys that do a considerable amount of revenue weekly in his business, but his family is destroyed. And it is that way because he spends the vast majority of his time at work. He's built no boundaries.
Right.
And so what we've encouraged him to do is to build the boundaries and say, work within this time frame. Go home, don't cheat your family, because that's the first place that most people cheat. And the reason that they do that is because they feel like they can get forgiveness. They feel like that they'll understand. But the truth is that we can injure our family beyond repair if we're not careful. So what happens is you do like I did. You come home with a pocket full of money to a house full of strangers, and you've got somebody else taking your son to baseball practice, and your wife is taking the little girl to ballet practice alone. Daddy's never there. Son, I'll come out and play baseball with you. Let me send one more email. It quickly gets dark. You're unable to do that with your son, and then you can't recover that time. And I want to encourage the people that are out there, if you're going to cheat the office, don't cheat your family, because you only get one go through with the family. You don't get a redo. It's like once you miss that opportunity to throw baseball with your little boy, or he wants to play outside, or your little girl at recital practice, you never show up to their baseball games. You're always late. You're always making a big show in front of your colleagues and peers, but you're doing it at the expense of your family. And you wonder why that your family falls apart in later years. And so we really help people identify the boundaries that they can work within, still be very successful, but be significant in your family life as well.
Yes, and that's so true. I mean, just hearing you give the analogies makes me just go, oh my gosh, like it's so seductive too. I mean, it's so seductive just to, I mean, keep hammering away. We're building this, we're doing this, and in the end, it's like, wait, what have I built? Like nothing. My legacy is not. There isn't one. And it's heartbreaking to hear that, you know, that at times that those days and those hours have passed, which kind of takes me to my next, you know, topic here that I'd love to hear your thoughts on is time. I mean, one of the things that, you know, we're always preaching in you know, cash flowing real estate is that you want time and money freedom. The biggest of those, I think the most valuable of those is time with your family, time with, you know, your loved ones. What would you say some of the keys are to developing time freedom?
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing is, first of all, is we've got to decide what we want in life. And I ask this question regularly to people. If geographically or financially there were no limitations, what would you do with your life tomorrow? And for the most part, people can't answer that question. They're living their life reactively, not proactively. And I decided years ago that I'm going to be very proactive. This is not a trial run. This is our life right now. What you're going through this very day is your life. And so I want you to be very proactive in making those determinations in how you want to live your life. Sit down and really think through that. I've even got a document, happy to give it away to your audience, called What Do I Want? And it's just very thought-provoking questions that you have to answer in order to live your life proactively, because you're the one making the decision. You can choose what you want to do and what you don't want to do. So build a life first and foremost to be very proactive. The second thing is that we say it every single day. Oh, my family's most important. Yet we're giving lip service to that because your actions are speaking loudly that your occupation is more important than your family. Right, so see, we do what is important. It doesn't matter to me what you say. It's your actions that are speaking loudly. So if your family is most important, you're going to put the big rocks in first. You're going to build your schedule to where your family is first and foremost, if that is what you're saying, and you're going to work your schedule around it. Now, I've been self-employed now for 43 years, never worked for anybody since I was 18 years old. And I said that the most important thing to me personally was my calendar. And I wanted to dictate if I went to work today or if I didn't go to work today. That was my choice. I wanted to make that determination. And I got tangled up in my early years, in my 20s. It was like, man, I had one store and I paid it off successfully and I was able to do that. I said, but if I just have one more store, then I'll have twice as much money. Then I can spend more time. And I got caught up in this trap, Sam. And it was like I kept moving the bar. And I kept moving the bar and I kept moving the bar. And then I looked up one day and I'm like, man, I'm in a bad spot because I keep moving this bar. And if I'm not careful, I'm going to lose my family. And so you've got to predetermine what it is that you want so that you don't get caught in that trap. And the wreck in 2001 is what helped me really unpack my life and say, no, this is really the life that I want, because life is so fragile. Like our life can be taken tomorrow. And we then wouldn't have the opportunity to make up. And I don't want to have regrets. I want to be able to lay there and go, man, I gave it all I had. I had my priorities in the right place. And so I've allocated my time appropriately.
Yeah. And regret, what's that phrase or that statement where they say something like failure weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons?
Yeah,
and
it does.
I'm probably butchering it up. I can't remember who Jim Rohn or somebody to that effect said that. I can't remember who it was, but it's, yeah, not having regrets when it at the end, man. That's have you ever read the book The 5 Regrets of the Dying?
I've not seen that.
It's a fantastic book. So anyway, just throw that out there. You know, if you're listening to this show and kind of in theme with what you're talking about here, Aaron, it's called The 5 Regrets of the Dying, and it's Bronnie Ware, I think was her name. And she just goes through, and she was a hospice caretaker for people, you know, wealthy families with people who were dying. And so she spent, I don't know, 5-10 years taking care of people, and just finally highlighted the 5 things that they said at the end, and kind of or condensed everything everybody said to like, here's the top 5 things. I mean, I've not cried so much reading a book. I was like, oh my gosh, like what a heart-wrenching story, because regret, man, it's just like, oh, I wish I could have. And you just hear those stories and you go, man, like don't be that person, right?
I've not read the book yet, but I can promise you that every person that was dying never said, I wished I'd spent more time at the office. I wished I'd spent more time with family.
No. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, nobody ever said, I wish I wish.
Yeah, and so, but the irony of that is the vast majority of our time each and every day is not quality time with our family. Mm-hmm. The irony is that it's always that, because there's this elusiveness within the grasp or the distance of financial prosperity and gain. Let me be the first to tell your audience, if they've not heard it, money is not going to scratch the itch like you think it's going to. Like, it's nice, and I love to have nice things, and I don't want to give up nice things. I drive new cars. I have a nice house. I take nice vacations. I'm not saying that. This is about the 3rd time I've said that in this interview, but I promise you that it's not my God. It is not my sole focus. Right. Even prior, to the wreck, I understood that getting those additional stores, making more money, other companies. See, money only really makes a difference until you make about $70,000. Once you pass that, it's almost insignificant, the amount of happiness that you feel like it's going to give you after your basic needs are met, because you get tireder of things faster, you have more resources, and you get bored quicker. And I'm just telling you that you may be leaning your ladder against the wrong wall in the things that you're trying to accomplish. And one of my biggest fears in life is being successful at the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. And I want your audience to really think through today, what is important to me and how can I allocate my time to accomplish that?
That's fantastic. One of the things I think is it Dan Sullivan's Who Not How? Is that the right book?
Yes.
And you kind of, talk about that a little bit as well, is in freeing up that time and who not how. What are some things practically, so we've kind of talked about the mindset way of addressing this and putting our values in the right place. But what are some things practically that you've done in order to free up time, in order to,
Sure.
honor your values?
It's funny that you mentioned that book. I took our entire mastermind group 6 months ago through Dan's book, Who Not How. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommended it. It's a book that teaches you that you should do only what you can do. Now, let me say this too, because I remember being a small business owner, solopreneur. Like, you don't have the freedom and the ability and the resources to do that today. I get that, right? I can't stand it when people say, oh yeah, it's like, well, no, like, it's just me right now. But you can aspire to do that. You can start out slowly. And when I started this company 8 years ago, it was me. And then we hired a team member, and then we went from there. And now we have a small team of about 10 people that really help us do what we do. I just got off of a 2-month sabbatical. I've never taken a sabbatical in my entire career. Friends of mine that live here in Nashville do that, and they recommend it. And I thought initially, well, that's just what rich people do, and they take an extended vacation. But the truth is that it was transformative in my personal life, because it really made me sit back and take notice of the things that I add the most value. It was where I'm operating in my zone of genius, not in my zone of competence. And I said, these things that I've been doing take up an inordinate amount of my time, and I can teach those principles to others, which I've done. And I've set aside the things that are redundant, or the things that can be taught, or the things that other people can learn. And I only do the things that bring the most value to our company. And so the who, not how is invaluable, because as you grow and you build more resources, you pour it back into the company. Now, I can't speak firsthand to this because I did it. When Robin and I started our first company when I was 18 years old, I got married 2 weeks out of high school. So I said, we may never get this opportunity again. So we've got to really, really focus in, delay gratification. We're going to pour the money back into the company. So for 9 years, Robin and I lived on $18,000 a year. Wow. We poured all the money back into the company. We bought other stores. We reduced debt. We hired team members. And then I had built something that a Fortune 500 wanted to buy when I was 27 years old. So it took us 9 years to build that company. But if I had spent all the money and increased my living, bought a bigger house, more cars, fancier vacations, I would have never amassed anything that somebody else would have wanted to buy. And so I want to encourage your listeners today to put the money back into your company. You are the best investment you could possibly make. And so along the way, delegate, eliminate, or automate. And so for me, the delegation part, the who, not how, is very important. Only do what you can do.
Yep. I love that. I love that. Aaron, thank you for taking the time to come on today's show. This has been absolutely insightful. I love everything you've shared with us, and I'm probably going to go back to this episode and re-listen to it again myself, just so I get it for a second, or maybe even third time. Iron sharpens iron. Where does that phrase come from, and why did you choose it?
Yeah, it's Proverbs 27:17. Iron sharpens iron as one man sharpens another. I'm Christian by faith, and so I wanted to be able to get around people to really encourage them to go to the next level, and it's just one of the principles by which I live. You know, Sam, I want to invite all of your listeners to attend something that we do. I think that would be very, very beneficial to everyone. And it's free. There's no charge. You'll never be asked for your credit card. We'll never try to sell you or upsell you. It's just something that we do to give back. And it happens every Tuesday, and we do it at noon. So if you really want to be involved in hearing more of what I teach on, I've got a plethora of real life experiences that I'm going to share. I'm going to encourage you if you're stuck, or if you're in transition, or you need accountability. Each and every Tuesday we do this. And the best place to go is tuesdaynoon.live. That's tuesdaynoon.live. Sign up. There's no charge. You'll never be asked for money. And we want to teach you and educate you each and every week to help you take your life to the next level.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Aaron. We'll make sure we include that also in the show notes. You offered a download there called What Do I Want? How do we get in touch with that?
Yeah, go to viewfromthetop.com, and there's 3 documents there I think that will serve you well, that will help you answer some of these questions that we've talked about today.
Fantastic. And lastly, if our listeners want to get in touch with you or Iron Sharpens Iron and learn more about that mastermind, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, go to viewfromthetop.com And my personal email's there. My phone is there. Reach out, contact me. I'd love to invite you to consider being a part of our community.
Wonderful. Thank you, Aaron, for your time today. I certainly appreciate it.
We'll see you, Sam.